Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Please do subscribe, guys. Both channels, Evolutionary Energy Arts and also on EEARTS. Each one has unique videos.
They definitely have unique videos. We use Evolutionary Energy Arts to talk about a lot of the things that we're faced with right now, and EEARTS is sort of the spiritual nature of that.
Although we do talk about some of the changes, because everything is interrelated, again, as we go through these different cycles here on Earth. And we've been talking about space weather. Right now you can see we have a G1 minor geomagnetic storm underway, and it's the KP, as we see right here, has been up. And so this is really the energy coming into the planet, and the sun has been pretty active. As we see the KP index hitting 6 here for 2 bars, and then 5 for 3, and at 4 for a couple more. This is a lot of information. It's a lot of light that is actually literally changing our DNA as we speak.
Right. So this is really important information for us to at least understand where we're at evolutionary wise, because that's something that they tend to keep from us, because what we don't know, we can't really act on, we can't really expand on, and we're just being led by another entity that wants to keep control of our consciousness.
Absolutely. And again, we have to unlearn so much of what we've learned. Cindy's been having a great time talking to a variety of different moms out there that have been homeschooling and kind of unlearning their children.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, some moms are doing so good in finding ways to unschool their children. And I have some of you guys sending me some great articles, some really good information that I can pass to other moms. So I'm thinking with the ship that we're steering now, it's going to be the moms that are going to really help turn it around with this unschooling thing. I love it.
Absolutely, because again, this planet is one that's completely full of agendas, completely. And those agendas, as we are learning, are not necessarily friendly to those inhabiting this planet. These agendas are completely control-orientated set of agendas that are all about keeping humanity in a limited state of mind. So when we quote-unquote trust the science that's constantly changing, and now we're really awakening up to it, we're going to find ourselves questioning everything, or we should be questioning everything. Buddha had said, don't believe something because I tell you. Don't believe something because your parents told you. Don't believe it because teachers or respected people in your town, village, society tell you. You have to weigh it with both head and heart. See if it makes sense. See if it feels right. And then take from it what you will. So here we see it's a boy. This is from 2016. First baby born with DNA from 3 parents. But what I really wanted to talk about was just how, again, when we think about DNA and we think about what they tell us, we're not going to get the whole picture here. There's also been a baby born with 3-strand DNA, and now they're talking about 4-strand DNA. Let's go back to that again. A baby born with DNA from 3 different parents. We would have thought, 20, 30 years ago that this would be an impossibility, total impossibility. And if you go back far enough, you would have thought things like the Immaculate Conception was truly a miracle. But now we can understand that, you don't even need to put a sperm and egg back in a mother. Everything could be done artificially. Everything could be done in a lab. This is part of the understanding that we have now as the great reveal is well underway, the great apocalypse. That was a mystery. When we look to the biblical stories of, different floods and natural disasters, different plagues coming from the sky, all being acts of God, only God could do that. No, we could mimic almost everything with today's technology. And there are beings out there with advanced technology that could do every single thing that we see.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's what we really need to understand and look through the lens with that different perspective, understanding that we are not the pinnacle of modern society at all. There's been far more scientific things that have been done out there that would probably totally blow our mind. And I'm sure lots of entities in our government understand this too, because when we see something new out in the public, it's probably been experimented on and used and perfected for the last 20 to 30 years. So they're really far ahead of us. So when we read our ancient scriptures, understand that look at that through a lens, a different kind of lens, that might be technology. And it really is interesting. It's very interesting to your heart and soul and mind when you see things through that perspective.
So as this comes out and says there's no more iconic image in biology than the DNA double-stranded helix, which coils and supercoils on itself, forming dense chromosomes, which we've talked about. The second chromosome in humanity has been fused, and it shows that there is some sort of artificial interference that's been done changing humanity. So in a quite different square-shaped type of DNA structure can be created in a lab by the folding of synthetic DNA strands rich in guanine, one of the building blocks of DNA. So here you have 4-strand DNA reality, and here, this is from Live Science. They're going to have their twist on it, of course. Live Science, NASA, NOAA, all interconnected, all part of the control matrix. 4-stranded DNA's activity in living cells unraveled for the first time. And this goes on to say that they see it in cancer and bad things. They want you scared of the sun. They want you slathering on sunscreen. They want to block the sun out, Bill. Bill Gates has said, hey, we got to block the sun out to stop this climate change disaster that's coming. This has all been about this time period, which they understand so very well. The CIA and the FBI have done studies. There are declassified studies we've talked about in the past. And again, we could bring up all these things, but every video would last every day, all day long, to rehash everything again. But it's all right out there. They know in these times we are under we're under a magnetic pole reversal scenario, which can take a long time to go ahead. This is one of the things too. Everybody is always wanting things to happen now, when a lot of these processes do take long periods of time, but perhaps not the millions of years that they lead us to believe with the changes that they've given us. Again, this is history is their story, his story, as we know, just like the scripture is part of the script. And yet there is truths that are twisted and hidden in all these things. So again, they want to make this seem like, well, if there is 4-strand DNA, then, it's not a good thing because it's when cancer's developing and et cetera, et cetera. Put on more sunscreen. Again, fear-based mentality, always hiding the truth out there. This is part of the activation that's underway from God with a big G, source. Understanding how the universe works is something that's very hard to get straight answers on when you're behind enemy lines in a culture, in a system that is viewing you and I as just an asset to be used.
And definitely keep that in mind, that we are raised in a system that indoctrinates us just so we can learn how to run their systems, these systems for these people that have big houses, nice cars. And as long as we are raised and trained to organize their systems and keep everything going, they just sort of glide on the back of our blood, sweat, and tears. And it doesn't bother them one bit. But what we do need to realize is that this system is breaking down, and it's going to be within our children that it further breaks down, and it is going to take time, but it's a very exciting time, because I think you guys have also noticed how time seems to be speeding up. It's just insane how often, we talk with people once every 2 weeks or once a week. It's like, it feels like we just spoke with them yesterday, and everybody's having these time situations going on. So we know that there's something changing, but in this world with education that we are given, we're never really going to know the complete truth.
So, this is just somebody's article, and there's another one too, that are just, giving a perspective where they're talking about this, and talking about science. And some scientists believe, we can have 3 or 4 or more strands of DNA, even up to 12 strands of DNA. And then this is where a lot of that symbolism comes in. Why 12 tribes of Israel? Why 12 apostles? Why do we divide it into 12 months? Why do we 12 and then the 144,000, and we still have people thinking there's only 144,000 people that are going to be quote unquote saved. Again, we could take things completely literally, like the 7 lampstands and the 7 churches, from Revelation, and not recognize that, what we're talking about is a little more esoteric. We are literally talking about consciousness. We're talking about chakras, 7 main chakras, along the Taiji pole, which is the center point of the body. When the soul is ready to leave the body, it leaves through, because it's basically housed in the spine. And Cindy has watched this happen herself when our beloved Zeke passed on.
Mm-hmm. That energy was, it was breathtaking and heartbreaking to watch at the same time. And when he did no longer animate that body, the way he came out was through the spine, and there was a lot of energy along the spine, and I thought that was quite miraculous and amazing. And I've been watching him evolve in this different density, so that's been really amazing too, to watch that, try to understand what I can with their limited education that we're allowed when it comes to all things that are hidden or the occult, and piecing that together. It's just really miraculous.
Absolutely. So this is from 2018. In 2017, neuroscientists used a classic branch of mathematics in a totally new way to peer into the structure of the brain. And what they discovered is the brain is full of multi-dimensional geometrical structures operating in as many as 11 dimensions. So for all of you out there that say, different dimensions, that's just woo-woo. No, you just are believing the mainstream line of thinking is what you're believing. You're believing a lie, because we are multidimensional people. And, we've heard that, oh, you're one of those new agers. Well, the new age, in some parts of it, again, every single thing gets infiltrated by the dark structure upon the earth, which is all about control the narrative. Hey, they discovered something else, so we have to control the narrative. They're going to keep discovering things because we are leaving the dark age. But here you go, this is something that is obviously a thing that they'd want covered up. The fact that our brain can operate in 11 different dimensions. We were at one point in time far more than we are now, but we're starting to become far more than we were yesterday.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest truths that is going to come up over the next few years is when it comes to space travel, when it comes to any kind of travel, we do not need to do that outside of the body in the 3D. We have everything. We are equipped with everything necessary to go to different planets, to go to different densities, to speak with different beings. That is all within us. We don't need to use the external ways of living, and that's definitely going to be coming more and more to the forefront. And as we meditate, as we grow our light body, as we heal our human collective, we're going to be able to use these abilities in a very productive way. So the main thing we need to do is really to heal all the traumas, because they really have done a good job in torturing the human collective soul in ways that I find just really horrible, horrible. So we need to work on healing ourselves first, but that's a real exciting future that we have to look forward to.
So Alfie Clamp, it was this little boy who was the first person in the world to be born with an extra strand of DNA that they discovered, and doctors were baffled at his condition. So rare, it doesn't have a name, but it's the time period. It's the time period that we're in now is a time of great changes. And, again, I do love, and I am thankful that you guys have patience with me as I think of different parts that I didn't think of originally to put in, but again, makes the point.
Definitely. A lot of times we're doing this on the fly. We put together a basic structure, and then all these guides come in and all these other informations come through. So we appreciate it.
And this little boy, unfortunately, he didn't live a long, healthy life. I forget how old he was when he died. This is 2011. He was born in 2009 in the UK. Adorable little man. And, again, his chromosomes are different than ours. And really, the key to long life is the telomeres on the end of the chromosomes. And, just to go off on a different tangent, there is this gentleman that was born in China, and the official Chinese government recognized his 200th birthday. And this is something that you would think nobody could live to be 200, but he was actually older. Cindy was able to contact him, because Cindy is an amazing both trance channeler, and she doesn't have to go fully under as well. And, we have so much that we want to share with you guys that I have probably thousands of hours of channeling now that we haven't totally shared with you guys. We haven't shared the actual channeling in full. We've shared maybe hundreds of hours, or maybe over 100 hours, but there's so much more. But it all goes together. Again, if we trust what we're taught, we are going to be finding ourselves in a dark box with no way out, and as we keep discovering little cracks and we look at the light that comes in, we keep discovering that there's a whole new world out there. And again, the legends and the myths that we see all over the globe, they are giving us the truth. We were so much more than we have been in this time period, but we are changing again. There's Chinese myths that say that at one time, in a different age, humans were just like the gods. Man could fly. Man could do amazing things, and we lived almost forever. And we find these myths are echoed all around the entire globe, and we do find that we're changing. And when I think about the whole concept of the photon belt, which again, this is another topic that I became aware of it back in the 80s, and it was thought to be so woo-woo. Oh, that's a, complete pseudoscience. There you go. It's pseudoscience. Yeah, nonsensical idea carried by some new age and pseudoscientific groups. Well, the scientific groups have an agenda. They're being paid to spread their version of reality. They're being paid and funded. We know this now. And so many people believe the earth will enter this band for 2,000 years, creating a spiritual advancement known as the quickening for inhabitants of the planet. Well, there is something that's changing. We could see it. We could feel it. I mean, I've noticed it, and I've been an energy worker for a long time. I've been practicing Qigong for decades, and meditation and yoga. Yet now, the way that I feel energy, it just dwarfs what I felt before. Every single day it gets more intense. And that's because we are truly leaving the dark zone. And we've shared this before with you, that there are people, one of our guides that has come to us at certain times had a vision of this, and he said that we have been in this dark zone where there was great death and destruction, entire civilizations on entire planets, even perhaps star systems were wiped out. I mean, we are talking, what we've seen in Star Wars with things like Starkiller Base, the Death Star, reality of things on that type of scale happening in our past, in a war that hasn't ended to this very day.
Mm-hmm. There's just so much information. I believe there's a lot under the Vatican, so much information under the Vatican. And when we watch these movies on Star Wars, we see these alien movies, and you get that tinge of understanding and chills because your DNA is speaking to you. It knows that it's real. So it's that knowing and that ability to read energy that we are starting to really open up to. We're really having a keen understanding that, hey, it's not just this 3D realm. There's many other different realms, and we can tap into them, and that's becoming stronger every single day.
Yeah, so this is, one of our guides, and this is Peter Dunov from Bulgaria, also known as Benisa Duono, and he had shared this information about the fact that we've been in this dark zone and that there was going to be what we would call a galactic superwave. And he actually used that terminology like 60 years before science came up with it. 60 years before science even came up with the term, galactic superwave. So he said there would be an energetic flash and everything would be changed. Everything would be changed. And you can see this Einstein quote, "All the world renders homage to me, and I render homage to the master Peter Dunov from Bulgaria." He was also, besides writing books on, the use of prayer, intention, about life and death and karma and all sorts of different stuff, he was also a musician as well. And also, he kind of taught his own form of Qigong, and it was interesting because it was almost like a dance-like way. Very, very interesting person, to say the least. And he had this vision that this is something that was not too far off in the distant future. And again, he lived from 1864 till 1944. So he was definitely a spiritual master, founder of a school of esoteric Christianity. So fascinating stuff if you guys want to go deeper. But again, talking about our 12-strand DNA, now this is something that is a golden age type of reality. Again, we're going in steps. It's so fascinating that we could find things in the Bible, for instance, like a day to the Lord is as if 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as if a day to the Lord. Now, many people have said, well, that's 1,000 plus 1,000 is 2,000, so that means Christ is coming in about 2,000 AD. Taking that one little quote and saying, 2,000 years, so he's coming in 2 days. He's coming in 2,000 years. And there's been all sorts of different guesses and looking at different scriptures, but when we look to what do we get out of the Sanatana Dharma, the people of the Indus Valley, or the Hindu civilization that developed, and that I believe really they have leftover knowledge from not only Atlantis but Lemuria and other civilizations. You see a day of Brahma. A day of Brahma is 4.32 billion years. Isn't that an interesting number? Because it does actually kind of correlate with what they say the age of the earth is. And, the life of Brahma is 311.04 trillion years. Interesting numbers because they give you a vision that is kind of Big Bang, big crunchish in a sense, but it's also like inhale, exhale. It's also the beat of a heart and the pause. And again, everything is relative. It's recognized that we are living in the mind of God right now, or, we are actually experiencing a dream of God, a dream of Source, which when we talk to the guides, they concur, but we're also co-creators in this dream.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's many different ways we can look at this and understand it, and it's just opening that perception through the heart chakra and allowing that information to flow. That's what's going to bring us forward.
So, this is Sri Yugaswar, who was the guru, the teacher of Yogananda, who brought yoga really to the West. These are amazing masters that were able to achieve amazing things. And this is his revised chart of the Yugas, in which it basically is going along with the precession of the equinox to a degree. And you could see these different ages. Now, the Kali Yuga is the dark age. Thankfully, it's the smallest age. Then we have Dwapara, which he believes that we're in now. We've actually already left the Kali around the time of the Industrial Revolution, and we've started to really understand things, but we have a long way to go. So you could see over here, if we go backwards to give us an idea, 3100 BC is when we went out of the Treta, or the silver, Satya, gold, into the bronze. So this does correlate into the mythology of Krishna leaving. And there was a massive, massive battle amongst, well, as we've said, the Vedas and the Puranas and all these texts from these people that inhabited this part of the globe. They talk openly of the wars of these beings. You could call them the gods, but in reality, these are beings just with advanced knowledge and advanced technology that literally did have wars with these demonic entities that they had a very different way of doing things. The benevolent ones, the devas, they came and they taught us. They sat down with us and they explained things to us. They showed us how to harvest. They showed us how to grow. They taught us the cycles of nature, how to know when things are turning from one season to another, so to speak. And then we have the asuras, which were the ones that we could equate to the demonic forces, which again, I would equate many of these beings to what we would call the Anunnaki, Ajiji, draconian beings that are all part of this AI construct. Now, when they came in, they didn't gently teach the people. No, they came in, they ruled directly. They would come into an area. Like if we go to the Ramayana, it speaks of this one being, Ravana, who took Sita, who was Rama's love of his life, and carried her off to Lanka, which is Sri Lanka today, an island off the coast of India, and just made her his bride and kept her captive there. And then there's a whole battle that ensues in order to get her back. And again, the guides have said these things are stories. They've always related to all of our quote-unquote scriptures as stories that might be useful for a particular stage of knowledge and of consciousness. Why did Yeshua teach in parables? Because everybody could get something out of them. There were those that could only get the superficial, basic moral precepts, basic rights and wrongs. There were those that could see deeper, and then there were those that could really understand the esoteric truths behind all that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, whatever frequency, wherever you are vibing at, this information can come into you and actually change you for the better, bring you some kind of evolving. When you listen to certain people, you get these golden nuggets of information or aha moments, and it changes you, these light bulbs. Many of our scriptures are written in such a way to reach us through that heart chakra and through that understanding and bringing us to another level of evolution.
So when we look to the Greek, they have an equivalent too. They have a golden age, a silver age, a bronze age. They have something also called the heroic age, which you might equate to the age of the Nephilim, Perhaps. The mighty men of old. This is your Genesis 6 age here, and it's interesting. And then you have the Iron Age, which is, again, the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age. And when we look to, again, the Vedic tradition, they say in a golden age, humans could live up to 100,000 years. How in the world is that possible? Well, because, again, it's all about vibration and frequency, and what we're talking about is a light body here. This is a light body. It's not the same body that we have right now. We are in a much heavier, denser vehicle. We are building our light bodies. And many will be maximizing their light bodies to their own capability, because again, we have to go at a certain rate of speed. If your light body, which was the case with me, it was more advanced than my physical body, and a period of time I was starting to have problems with the physical body keeping up to the light body, so I had to back off of things like gathering the life force with Qigong practices and certain breathing practices, and I had to, go back to doing more basic physical exercise in order to, and even change my diet in order to bring the physical body up to the point where it could accept the light body going ahead again.
Mm-hmm. And this is why it is so important what we eat, why we eat that, because it's going to have a direct effect on our 3D body. And there's many different beings that are born into this world whose bodies cannot quite contain the light that it was intended to contain. So these are some star children that are very, very beautiful. They're miraculous, but they might look different to us. We might feel, well, there's something wrong with them, but there's not. They're star beings. There's understanding in there. And many people understand that you can read the minds of these different beings. They are definitely many, many steps ahead of us and should be recognized as, that new wave of energy incoming.
So Golden Age was a time before Zeus. His father Kronos reigned over and Kronos is equated with time in some ways, over the Golden Age. That was when men lived amongst the gods, and there were no rules because everybody just innately did the right thing. It was always spring, peace and harmony prevailed. Humans didn't have to work to feed themselves. The earth provided food in abundance. They lived to a very old age, but with a youthful appearance, and they eventually died peacefully as if falling asleep. Their spirits were said to live on as guardians of the mortals. Now, the Silver Age, things start to change. Zeus overthrew his father Kronos, ruled over the Silver Age, and the subsequent ages. Zeus created the silver race of man to be inferior in appearance and wisdom to the last, purposeful. There's your chromosome issues as well as others. He divided the year into 4 seasons. So this is when there's changes to the earth in which everything becomes more difficult. Man had to grow his food and seek shelter, because before we didn't have to. It was always spring. It was always pleasant. And there was food in abundance. But still, their childhoods were long, and they could play for 100 years before growing up. They lived only a short time as grown adults, spent most of the time in strife with one another due to their childish foolishness. Zeus destroyed this race for refusing to worship the gods. Interesting. Nonetheless, after death, the silver race became the blessed spirits of the underworld. Then, in the Bronze Age, Zeus created the first recognizably human, by today's standards, bronze race from the hardwood of ash trees. Of course, allegory there. War and violence was the purpose and passion of the bronze race. They did not eat bread. Maybe they were just pure meat eaters. Their weapons, tools, and even their homes were forged of bronze. This race of man was destroyed by Zeus with a great flood. There's your biblical flood. Now, what we've gotten is that these Olympian gods, the Greek Olympian gods like Zeus and the others, these beings are not like what we speak about when we talk about our devas, per se. They're not like Lakshmi. They're not like Vishnu. It's a much lower race of being, and again, you even see that in the Vedic mindset as well. And these beings are associated with the Anunnaki.
They're very much so. Their attitude, the way they do things, their desire and need to control is related to that kind of vibrational frequency. So everything has an understanding to it based on where are you vibing at, where's your mind at, but that also has a lot to do with where we're at in the solar system. How far are we into that photon belt?
So then you go to the Iron Age, where babies will be born with gray hair. That's how short our lives are in relation to our lives in the other ages. And again, it's interesting too, because in the Hindu Golden Age, people are 30 feet tall. There's your giants right there. Who are the giants? We were the giants. Again, these are just bodies. These are just bodies. The bodies are vehicles. You're not your body. So again, it's just, and as time went on, they got smaller, smaller, smaller. These are the different sizes of the different giants. So again, everything is so distorted. When we talk about archangels, we're really talking about the beings that are in control of the elements and the order, so to speak, of the manifested world. So we have a message for you guys from Metatron. And Metatron here you see depicted as, typical kind of Greco-Roman, look there. But the reality is, it's if Cindy describes, well, what does Metatron really look like? It's more like just pure light.
Mm-hmm. He's very much a light being, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen those Christmas trees or different yard ornamentals where it's just the fiber optic cable is kind of doing its thing. Well, he is a lot of that, and he has like a wave to his energy, but he's been coming by for the last couple of weeks wanting to bring this information forward. So again, another entity wishing to help. If you want, if you would allow, these entities want to come in through our heart chakra and help us evolve, because they've been through many of the difficult times we've been through, and wherever they can assist, that's what they want to do.
So we will share a message. It's a short message, only about 6 minutes long or so, and this is from Metatron.
Let me start with information from Metatron.
Greetings, Metatron.
The first thing he wishes to relay is his concern that many people feel he is part of the AI technology that is ravaging your planet. He wishes to ensure others that this technology he possesses is one of the light of your very own sun. He says the energies coming from your sun are creating new connections, new synapses in your brain and the brain of this channel. Having yourself in a space of receptivity is very important to allow these new connections to occur in the brain. This is happening to many different beings all over the planet who are open to this new information that is arriving into your human bodies. Many people are receiving much of these new light codes that are just being released from the sun now into their bodies at a pace that might be overwhelming and confusing. As you know, we are all made of the same material. Depending upon how you make yourself a receptive entity depends on this light coming into your body and how it responds. How are these receptive abilities attained? One is able to create these receptive abilities through your traditional meditations and mantras, through simple things such as gardening, growing trees, flowers. Anytime you put yourself in a position of receptivity, you are able to absorb more of these light codes. This energy will continue to be absorbed into your human bodies, creating a new form of consciousness. As you can see, leadership is changing in this 3D construct because of the amount of light that is being received. This can be a frightening time for consciousness, for the human conscious collective, as things are changing. They do not understand what the end unit will look like. We must continue to pull ourselves back into the now, always wanting to understand the end product is using only your human mind, but accepting that consciousness always is and forever will be, is where you want to place your understanding and
Sorry guys, it looks like that was weird. It just kind of looped all the way back there. Let's see, we were at about 4:15. Oh, that's totally weird. Sorry, thanks for sticking with us. We only had like
4:20 actually.
4:20. Here we go. Let's try this.
end unit will look like. We must continue to pull ourselves back into the now, always wanting to understand the end product is using only your human mind, but accepting that consciousness always is and forever will be, is where you want to place your understanding and arrest the desire to need an ending to your scenario. These energies will never end. They will always be transforming. I come now to express myself in a way that you can understand me. The children that are being born in this time have much receptivity abilities depending upon how they are raised. Keeping children in a state of curiosity will help them evolve to their maximum potential. You too can do the same. keeping yourself in a state of curiosity and wonder opens your heart chakra, throat chakra, pineal, crown, allowing these new light sources to enter in and process themselves into your human body. I do hope I have brought some understanding that I am not AI, but I do have a keen understanding of how light can be utilized to change the consciousness in your collective. I wish to share with those who are desiring such information. Use this information with discernment. Express or explain the way you feel will be most accepted by those who hear you.
So that was a message from Metatron there.
I hope people received what they needed to receive. I know a lot of changes have been going on. A lot of these sun sneezes happening. A lot of things really going on in a sense that it's changing us. It's changing us in such a deep way. So making ourselves receptive, putting ourselves in that space where we can receive all of these upgrades is really important right now. And we definitely have help out there if we want it, need it.
Absolutely. And again, this is a very, very large entity as far as understanding these different entities and their different energies. They're all very unique, and each one of them. Again, we have knowledge of Metatron really through the Abrahamic tradition, through the esoteric Abrahamic tradition, like the Kabbalah, for instance, and the Western mystery tradition. But these beings aren't owned by that tradition. Again, they're beyond that tradition. And this is something that people just can't understand in many ways because of the conditioning that we've been put through. So when you see when you feel Metatron, I mean, what does it feel like?
You know, his power is so huge. He is really the power. I mean, that's the one word I can put to it. The essence of his power is so enormous that it's really hard to contain in the body. I mean, it's something where you could never embody all of him. His energy is simply too much. He's a powerhouse, but in a good way. So he uses the elements in such a way that is going to be advantageous to human consciousness. And he has these abilities, and he's just amazing. You know, you can almost, maybe this is a cheesy way to put it, but he's like a beautiful muscle car. You know, his energy, you can just really, that engine is there to be used and utilized.
Yeah, they do want to help us, but again, it's up to each individual. If you don't want to ask for help, then you just don't ask for help. And each one of us is having a unique human experience. So, you know, everybody is different. Everybody is exploring things as they choose to explore it. In many ways, you know, we're accepting certain programs and we're rejecting other programs. And, you know, same thing with information. We're accepting some information, rejecting others. And what you may, you know, reject today, you might look back and say, you know, shoot, I should learn about that tomorrow.
Remain flexible. You know, our human brains really are very much like a computer with a rewind, a delete button, and an editing button, but we have to spend the time to rewire things if it's needed. We have to place ourselves in that receptive state and really heal to understand how we can change ourselves and heal our brains and bodies.
And again, the reason why these beings don't just simply control our reality for us is because then we would gain nothing from this experience. There would be nothing we gained. You have to gain from this experience by taking the ride. You know, you could think of this again as you could look at a roller coaster, And there might be a variety of different roller coasters. You've chosen to come on the roller coaster that looks pretty scary. Maybe it goes upside down, and maybe it does all sorts of loop-de-loops instead of the kiddie coaster, which might have been a ride, say, in the Golden Age or the Silver Age. You've come in at the end of a Dark Age, the beginning of what we would call, a Bronze Age, where there is some more light coming through. Well, again, the greatest potential for growth is in a period like right now, but it is most definitely, it's the challenging ride. So it's recognizing that. And if these beings did all the work for us, we would not gain anything from the ride. We have to be on the ride. We have to go through the experience. We have to try our souls and test ourselves and see how well we will do. And then we actually do gain benefits from the experience that carry on when we're out of the body.
Just think of our children and how we need to let them have their own experience so they can gain their own knowledge and their own understanding and their own discernment. That's really, really important to remember, because if we do everything for our children, they're not going to learn, they're not going to gain that experience, and you're actually kind of robbing them of this experience. Even though you're a parent and you might want to step in the way and do it for them, it's really important that they learn these things for themselves.
Absolutely. So as always, guys, thank you for your support, both on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time donation to support the channel, or you could do monthly as well by varying the number of coffees, and also over on Patreon. And we want to thank everybody that has been supporting us over there. If you need to set up an appointment for energy work, a Vedic chart, or just spiritual coaching, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. Much love. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.